Just a short drive west from Philmont is the town of Taos, New Mexico. A popular destination for tourists and locals alike, Taos is perhaps best known for its vibrant and diverse art scene. For centuries, countless painters, potters, sculptors, and many others have been drawn to and inspired by the landscapes and cultures that define this unique community. Perhaps most notable were the 12 members of the Taos Society of Artists, who, from 1915 to 1926, would play a key role in transforming what had been a small New Mexico art colony into the world-class art center that it is today. Among those intrigued by the work produced by these artists were Waite and Genevieve Phillips. During their numerous travels up the canyon to Taos while vacationing at their Philmont Ranch, the couple acquired several paintings for their collection, including 4 that now adorn the walls of their former home, the Villa Philmonte. Learn more about these pieces of Philmont history on this edition of Artifact of the Week. Although today's town of Taos was founded in 1615 by Spanish colonists, the nearby Taos Pueblo can trace its construction to nearly 1,000 years ago, between 1000 and 1450 AD. Considered to be one of the oldest continually inhabited communities in the United States, the Taos Pueblo remains the home of over 1,900 Pueblo people and was declared a UNESCO World Heritage Site in 1992. It was Native Americans from the Pueblo who were the first artists in the Taos region, producing pieces that included leatherwork, jewelry, petroglyphs, and even pottery known for its distinctive metallic shimmer thanks to the high mica content found in local clay. Today, Taos Pueblo artists continue the centuries-old practice of producing both traditional and contemporary artworks. When Spanish colonists, led by Hernando de Alvarado, first arrived in Taos in 1540, they began a period of history that would bring many new people, cultures, and changes to the region. This included the introduction of Catholicism and, in turn, of new art traditions in the form of religious and devotional works. To this day, Hispanic artists in Taos, known as santeros, continue to produce santos, stunning depictions of Catholic saints that include 2-dimensional retablos and 3-dimensional bultos. Similarly, faced with the challenge of importing items to this remote region, Hispanic artists also developed distinctive southwestern styles of wood and tin working in this period. Producing needed furniture and supplies and decorative items, these styles have remained popular throughout the Spanish, Mexican, and American territorial periods. In fact, the villa features many wonderful examples of both local Native American and Hispanic artworks that we hope to cover in a future edition of Artifact of the Week. The modern era of art in Taos, however, began in 1898, when New York artists Ernest Blumenschein and Bert Phillips first came to town. They had heard about this area from artist Joseph Henry Sharp while studying in France in 1894. Sharp spoke of his experiences there on a trip through New Mexico in 1893, and convinced the young artists that they needed to see this place for themselves. Upon viewing the Taos Valley for the first time, Phillips and Blumenschein were taken by the stunning landscapes, natural lighting, and distinct Native American and Hispanic cultures of the area. Phillips reportedly turned to Blumenschein and stated, quote, "For heaven's sake, tell people what we have found. Send some artists out here. There's a lifetime's work for 20 men." The two had decided that Taos would be a perfect location to establish an art colony like those they had seen in Europe, and they quickly set to work on making this dream a reality. In 1902, E. Irving Kaus joined Blumenschein and Phillips in their new community, and by 1915, a group of 6 artists from the eastern United States had come to make Taos the center of their professional attention. It was in that year that the Taos Six, as they were then known, founded the Taos Society of Artists, consisting of Blumenschein, Phillips, and Kaus, as well as W. Herbert Dunton, Oscar E. Burninghouse, and Joseph Henry Sharp. Over the years, the group would grow to include 12 members, with the addition of Julius Rolshoven, E. Martin Hennings, Kenneth Adams, Walter Ufer, Victor Higgins, and the group's only female member, Catherine C. Critcher. Their work focused primarily on painted depictions of Native Americans in traditional clothing, local Hispanic and Anglo-Americans, and regional landscapes. In 1917, the group hosted the first exhibition of their paintings at the Palace of the Governors in Santa Fe, before sending them on multiple traveling exhibits across the United States. In the process, they helped to put Taos on the map and expose the country to cultures and landscapes they may have never encountered before. The group also contributed their talents to support the war effort in World War I by designing posters, military teaching tools, and exhibiting their work at Red Cross bazaars. The development of artist communities like theirs even contributed to the push for the creation of the Museum of New Mexico and the New Mexico Museum of Art. However, despite their successes, it was ultimately the Great Depression that led to the group's dissolution, as demand for art from patrons decreased, and with it, the sales the artists relied on for income. Before the group's dissolution, though, Waite and Genevieve Phillips would have traveled to Taos from Cimarron on multiple occasions. It is likely that it was on these trips that they were first exposed to the Taos Society and acquired the 4 paintings that still hang in the Villa Philmont today. The first 2 paintings that can be seen when entering the building were done by Missouri artist Oscar E. Burninghouse. Both were completed in 1927 and depict Native American figures. The first hangs outside the New Mexico room and portrays a night scene of dancers at the Taos Pueblo, circled around a roaring fire while crowds look on. A notation on the back of the painting states that it was, quote, an Indian dance at Taos Pueblo to honor Vice President Dawes and friends. Vice President Charles Dawes visited the Phillips family at Philmont in July of 1927 and was taken to visit the Pueblo on that trip. It is believed that Dawes is actually depicted in the crowd in a light-colored suit on the far right of the painting. The second painting by Burninghouse hangs above the fireplace in the main entry hall. It depicts 2 Native American figures seated next to their horses in a mountainous desert landscape. Unlike the other painting, which was produced with oil paint, this one is much smaller and is believed to be a watercolor. As we move upstairs to the living room, a third painting by Maine artist W. Herbert Dunton can be seen hanging in the stairway. It is unknown when this painting was produced, but it depicts a group of Anglo-Americans on horseback fording a stream amidst a mountainous forest landscape. This piece was not actually intended to hang in the villa originally, though. It was actually first hung in Waite's Phil Tower office in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Eventually, it was donated to the Villa Philmont by Waite's children in the 1970s, when work was underway to turn the building into a historic house museum. Today, Waite's former office in the Phil Tower has been beautifully restored to the era when he worked there, and a high-quality reproduction of this same painting now hangs in its original place. The final painting hangs behind the piano in the living room, and is perhaps the most special Taos Society piece in our collection for anyone with a Philmont connection. Those of you who have been on trek before may recognize this fall scene as the view from the main cabin at the Rayado Lodge, or Fish Camp as it's known today. It was painted by New York artist Bert G. Phillips, who had no relation to the Phillips family at Philmont, but was commissioned by them to create this piece. The Rayado Lodge was one of several backcountry cabins constructed by the family for outdoor recreation on the ranch, and was said to be Waite Phillips's favorite. By hanging it in the living room, Waite could enjoy one of his favorite views anytime he wanted while on the ranch. Finally, although not an official Taos Society piece, it is also worth mentioning a 5th painting with a strong connection to those artists that hangs in the villa's trophy room. This piece was painted by Albert Looking Elk. Albert, his wife, and his children had all been employed on multiple occasions as models by E. Irving Couse and Oscar E. Burninghouse. Eventually, Albert began his own art career as one of the Taos Pueblo artists in 1915. Unlike the often romanticized scenes painted by Taos Society members, Albert is known for his realistic depictions of the landscapes and people of Taos Pueblo. This painting in particular depicts the iconic North House and Pueblo Peak, and is just one example of the ongoing work of contemporary Taos Pueblo artists today. Believe it or not, though, these paintings are just the beginning of the Phillips family's Taos Society collection. Several others are still owned by their descendants, but many more are housed in the family's former home at the Philbrook Museum of Art in Tulsa, Oklahoma. This most notably includes a massive 13-foot panoramic scene of Philmont and the Tooth of Time by Oscar Burninghouse on display in the museum's Santa Fe room. The work of Taos Society members continues to be recognized for the unique styles they employed and their role in the development of the Taos art scene today. Despite the demise of the group in 1926, this was by no means marking the end of the Taos art scene. Since then, Taos has continued to attract and inspire new generations of artists, including names like Ansel Adams, Georgia O'Keeffe, Nikolai Fetchin, and D.H. Lawrence. Today, Taos hosts over 80 art galleries, 8 museums, and multiple annual festivals and events where the arts come alive. The next time you find yourself in Northeastern New Mexico, make sure you take the time to visit the villa to view these incredible pieces of Southwestern art history, and maybe even take a trip up the canyon to experience the art of Taos for yourself. That's all the time we have this week. Join us next time as we continue to learn more about the history of the Boy Scouts of America through the collections of the National Scouting Museum and Artifact of the Week.